Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Chillin and Grillin. And as I promised, this week we're cooking the king of smoked meat, brisket. So I've got my brisket here, full brisket. The brisket is the breast of the cow, and it's probably one of the most difficult type of meats, proteins to cook. The first step is actually we're going to be smoking this tomorrow, but tonight we're going to be prepping it. And the first part of prepping it is cutting off some of the excess fat. So I take a sharp knife and I just slice along and I remove the fat. You want to leave about 1/4 of an inch of fat on the brisket. So the brisket has been trimmed. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to season it. And I like to use mustard coat it in mustard first, just a light layer of it. And this will act as a binding agent for the spices. I use my hand to rub it all on. And then next, we're going to season it and rub that right into the meat. This is just your general all-round barbecue seasoning. A lot of people just use salt and pepper. I just like to add a little bit more flavor. And the final part that I like to do, and again, it's not common, but I like to do it because I do think it adds to the juiciness of the meat, is a brisket is divided into 2 parts. The flat, which is the narrow end, and then the point. And I like to inject some beef juice into at least and yes, it will run out. Might have to move that. And now we're ready to put that back in the fridge overnight so we can start smoking tomorrow. Good morning, everyone. Nothing like good hickory smoke first thing in the morning. So we're ready to start smoking our brisket. It's been in the fridge all night. We took it out about 2 hours ago, and now it's time to put it on. So when I place the brisket on, I'm going to put it fat side up, and I'm going to put it so that the point is closest to the heat because we don't want the fat to get too hot too quick. Now, smoking brisket is all about temperature, not time. So I am going to insert a temperature probe into the point. And it's going to cook or smoke like this until it reaches a temperature of about 170 degrees Fahrenheit. At that point, we'll take it off and we'll go to the next step. So now it's just a matter of waiting for it to cook. Well, the brisket finally reached a temperature of 170. And at that temperature, what happens to the meat is it stalls and it stops heating up. So we really want to raise the temperature. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wrap the brisket in parchment paper and then put it back onto the smoker until it reaches a temperature of about 202 degrees. At that point, the fat will actually be rendering through the meat, and then we're ready for the next step. Well, the brisket reached 202 degrees actually, so now it's time to take it off. And this next step is really important when doing a brisket on the smoker. You've got to let the meat rest so that the fats and the juices can all render back into the meat to give it a more tender flavor. So, take that off. I'm going to put it wrapped into a cooler, cover it up with a towel, put the top on, and we're going to let it sit there for at least an hour. It'll probably be closer to 2. Well, it's chillin' time. And this week, I'm featuring another beer from the Sons of Kent Brewery down in Chatham. This is their Mammoth. It's their Imperial Stout. It's actually aged in bourbon barrels, which gives it a nice butterscotch, chocolate, coffee flavor. It is a great beer with any kind of smoked meat, but it's going to be the perfect beer to have with our brisket tonight. So if you're ever down in southwestern Ontario, down in Chatham area, it's worth stopping into the Sons of Kent Brewery. It's worth the drive to Chatham. Cheers. Well, it's time to talk about sides. Although we're going to have other sides tonight, I want to talk about the one that I'm contributing to the meal, and that is my traditional smoked corn ribs. So what I did is I had corn on the cob, I parboiled it, I quartered it, and I've soaked it in a barbecue sauce and spice for about 20 minutes. And now I'm going to put them on the grill just to get them warmed up again and to get that taste right through the meat, through the corn. So when it comes to brisket, this is the moment of truth. When it comes to a successfully cooked brisket, there are 3 things you need to look at. One is the bark, the color, and the texture. This one looks great. The next one is the cut itself, and whether you have a smoke ring or not. This one has a beautiful smoke ring on it. And the next test is its tenderness. Falls apart nicely. Melt your mouth. Sounds great. I would say this has been pretty successful. So, this is the last episode of Chillin' and Grillin'. We're going to sit down now and have a great traditional Texas meal with a traditional Texas brisket. And we'll see you next time on Chillin' and Grillin'. Hi everybody, I'm back. So this is an extra bonus to this episode because it is my last for this season. We had a traditional smoked Texas brisket, and what meal would not be complete without a traditional bourbon drink? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to smoke my bourbon before I have it. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to ignite some oak flavored chips into my smoker. And I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but there's the smoke penetrating the bourbon. We're going to add a little more smoke. There we go. Look at that. going to let that smoke all the way through the bourbon. Give it a little bit of a stir. Remove the lid. Cheers. Here's to smoked bourbon and a great brisket dinner. Wow. So, we'll see you next time on Grillin' and Chillin'.